Hello, everybody. Just noting that we have Sam in the chat, and I'm just communicating with him so that he can help manage himself, right? Sam is, of course, part of the reason we're doing this broadcast, and really the primary one, right? Even though we don't fully agree with Bart Ehrman either. Bart Ehrman is not someone out there attacking people's mothers, as doxing them and abusing his kids' life and lying about God and promoting the worship of Baal and redacted Bibles and pagan churches. So, because Sam has put himself out there again, as he always has, right? That's really the thing that has made Sam Sam. That and a bunch of bad decisions by people who should have known better. However, we all make mistakes. So we try to deal with what is now. We can't go back and change the past, but we have someone who's really not qualified to be in public, right? Up here telling everybody how bad they are, how great he is, and otherwise showing us all how little he really knows, right? The thing about Sam, though, is he is experienced. He's been around a long time, and he's so insecure and unskilled. He's never been able to develop any ability to do anything, right? Other than, like I said, get up and attack people about how they worship God, even though he's gone from different forms of worshiping God and is currently an apostate from Protestantism, the religion that his daughters belong to, right? So I don't know if they know he's an apostate from their religion, but he is allowing Marvel to raise them because every time he goes live, he's attacking me and has them in another room watching Disney. So there's a lot of issues around Sam, and I do mean round, around, but we're going to focus on his doctrine. That's what we usually do anyway. We just have a little fun with him because he's such a spectacle. And so many people have made the horrible decision of promoting him that we just go with it, we try to make light of him because he thinks he's such a tough guy, Sam likes to have his little group. He's really weak if he doesn't feel like he has some group that's behind him. But when he's got like a group of idiots that are promoting him, then he kind of feels motivated. It never lasts, though, and it can't last because Sam never changes. And Sam only cares about Sam. So, you can see where this is going to go, can't you? And it always will go and has gone. And he is gone. But because he misleads a lot of people, we don't really care about his followers, the real loyal people, Oh, we care, but we know they're close enough. If they can't see, well, then we know the Father's blinded them to be right there with him when he collapses. Some get away, but still are trauma bonded with Sam because he even admitted recently with his own daughters, he love bombs, right? He's not an emotionally regulated person. He would never survive in a regular environment in the world. He could probably barely go to the grocery store and complete that mission without creating a problem. Forget about any corporate environment, not happening, right? On any level. I mean, none. There's really nothing he can do but continue what he's doing. And I mentioned the other day, and we'll get right to it in a moment. I won't spend a lot of time on these associated things, but people need to understand the reason for Sam. He really deserves none of this. Right? He's accomplished nothing. Nobody ever cites him in a legitimate source for anything other than to laugh at him. I've been cited in journals, grammars, and articles for 30 years. I've debated people that Sam can only dream of debating and that were his former heroes. Pretty much all of them. So he's been running for me for a debate for several years, including recently. He's created conditions that are just ridiculous, and even if I give in to almost all of them, he's still insulating himself because he's a baby. So there's only so much I can do to formally expose him because of his problems. So I choose this venue to just hammer away at him. I actually showed up on Sam's channel. I went on live with him a couple years ago because he was bad-mouthing me, and I said, fine, I'll come right on. I've been dealing with Sam for a long time. He's a coward. So I went on with him. Sure enough, he let me have a normal conversation and correct him because he was stupid about what he was saying about my group for 2 minutes. He immediately brought on who was his then friend and brother, whom he's since slandered and now is slandering, William Albrecht. He immediately then began to tag team with William, go from issue to issue. I answered everything he said to me that I could hear, and everyone knows this. I even was dealing with William. After 10 total minutes, including the first 2 that were normal, and then the 8 with William, he cut me off. And then lied and said I ran. Okay? So this isn't something that hasn't happened or that wouldn't, there's no way. I told you a minute ago, Sam wouldn't survive in a corporate environment. He can only survive in a very controlled environment at this point. I think everyone knows this. I don't think that would even be disputed by almost anyone. Even him, right? He didn't offer me a live thing. So this guy is crazy. He is not a legitimate person. He's not a legitimate dad. He's not even a legitimate U.S. citizen. He doesn't pay his taxes regularly or on time, or he's in debt most of the time. He openly opposes the government, which is anti-Christian behavior, according to Paul in Romans. Okay, so there's no reason to fall for the scheme he's got going, okay? He's a little man. And I mean a little teeny man, okay? Like, he's talked about the size of his member. That's how little I'm saying. And he's even told his whole audience in the whole world that his wife left him because he's deficient. Okay, so he's bald, he's fat, and he's little. He's never going to stop attacking anybody. Me, Bart Ehrman, you name it. He can't stop because what's he going to do? Live with himself? See, normal people who have regulated lives, they can live with themselves, their deficiencies and all, and just, deal with people occasionally or on a normal schedule. Sam can't do that. He doesn't have a normal, so he doesn't do anything. He's literally paid by a bunch of really weak people to make them feel better about their low faith, right? They literally need someone like Sam to scream in their ears every day, or they'll stop believing in the Trinity. That's how pathetic they are. So they promote his child abuse, right? They promote all the things that show he's not a Christian, they promote just so he can tell them about their fake God. In fact, that's exactly what David Wood did up until recently, maybe a couple years ago. He couldn't stop believing that Sam could be used in this way to attack people he doesn't agree with, specifically the Muslims. And while I understand debating people and disagreeing with them, and I don't dislike David Wood anymore. I used to a little because of his association with Sam. Okay, this is not a long time ago that he was really with Sam. And one of the people, along with Dr. White, who brought us Sam and William Albrecht. We have people in the chat, of course, that have no arguments. Love God 237. You've put no argument down. And as you know, I've recently completely destroyed Sam. So just understand, He's not a good person. He's not a respectable person, and he's not someone who should ever be cited legitimately. He's attacking Bart Ehrman, who is a legitimate scholar. He attacks me, and I'm way beyond him, right? It's like a catastrophe that he even speaks my name out of his butthole mouth, right? The guy's literally an ass clown. He's a clown, okay? He's a blubbering fool. So we're going to deal with his arguments in a legitimate way, like we always do. Let me summarize them for you, okay? I'll say hi to everyone in a moment. But it's been a catastrophe. If you've been watching, you know this guy's been completely blown out, right? I mean, if you go back to part 1 in this series, I'm just going to summarize what I can think of. There's so much, though, okay? If you go back to part 1, you're going to see this guy's so naive, right? When I say he doesn't belong in any scholarly discussion, he's so naive of what Judeo-Christian history is about, or who wrote what when, and how people could think about it and him be wrong, right? So in part 1, I explained how Sam is wrong and or doesn't fully understand the context of Bart Ehrman's thought about being equal with God and equal with Yahweh. Sam, because he's not a legitimate person. He can barely read English, okay? The guy literally needs a ton of help and barely writes the simplest articles you can imagine with tons of block quotes. It's a catastrophe. To ever even think he's on my Bart Ehrman, anyone's level is insane. Okay, this guy's contributed nothing except praying to the Father, right? He's insane. He has nothing. Yeah, I've literally affected Greek grammatical rules from Granville Sharp to Caldwell and dealt with their best proponents and been cited in their works for decades. Dr. White in his books, in his journals for decades. Do I need to go on? I can. Rob Bowman, Dr. Morey, all the people he learned from and looks up to, by the way. And that's just the most notable ones. Okay, it doesn't deal directly with all my writings, which include Bart Ehrman, by the way. You can look at my John 1:18 blog where I deal with him and Dan Wallace. That's just one little thing. There are all kinds of things I've contributed both to the study of Greek grammar, Hebrew narratives, and plural usage in the Bible related to both the Trinity and speakers and speech patterns in Isaiah, in Revelation, the identity of angels throughout the Bible. No one has done things like that I put out in these ways that explain exactly where we're right and they're wrong. No one has put out a video on the ortho-pagans' energies and powers and shown where they're wrong biblically, which, by the way, Sam has not responded to. Has Sam apologized for blaspheming the energies, by the way? I guess that doesn't matter. He's also not responded to me on time and keeps lying about that. I have videos, I have articles, I have books all about that. Oh, and by the way, I'm one of the primary authorities on the pronunciation of the divine name and have been for decades. If you don't know that, that's just because you haven't heard that, because my writings, my debates, my videos show that. Yeah, I've contributed both to the understanding of Jehovah, Yahuwah, Yahol, and its use in ancient texts, including the New Testament and the Septuagint, as much, if not more than anybody, and address the leading authorities from people like Albert Pietersma on the Septuagint and the Divine Name, George Howard and others on the New Testament and the Divine Name. I'm not talking about agreements. I'm talking about where we disagree in terms of what was actually in the original text, and texts that actually show this, that no one else has cited. Okay, so Sam's a little man. He has no place with people like me, either in real life, society, or biblically. He's just a little man who hates himself, was abandoned as a young child. His mother hates him. His wife left him for bigger dick. Literally, right? He's on the second one after him. You're not going back, right? Sammy, you're not going to grow any more millimeters. So this is who we're dealing with, okay? Never forget this. You're never going to stop Sam from being Sam unless you regrow his hair, chop off his fat and make him look like me and regrow his penis. Short of that, it's not happening, okay? And you'd have to undo his whole family history from his father abandoning him to his mother hating him to his whore Babylon mom being raped by the Shia, okay? None of that's getting undone. So prepare for a lot of Sam. I am, and I think it's fun. I will be back tomorrow, by the way. Now, so part 1 showed how stupid Sam is on Bart Ehrman and being equal with God and equal with Yahweh. Watch that. He totally doesn't understand the first century context, including Philo's understanding, Middle Platonic Judaism, which is probably, in some sense, what Bart Ehrman would clearly have in mind in relation to God versus Yahweh and how he was talking about it. And he doesn't even have to have it specifically as detailed as I do to have had that view, because that's often what's taught and explained to people at his level and in the schools he goes to. He's a New Testament textual criticism scholar. Sam doesn't understand scholarship, different types of nothing. He literally cited Bart Ehrman, as you'll see in part 1 also, as the worst person you could possibly listen to, because he said he didn't know that Trinitarians believe Jesus was Yahweh, without giving context to that, which I discussed, like I said earlier a moment ago. But he cites him on that and says, look at how stupid he is, right? Who would ever, like, no one would ever think Sam would rely on Bart Ehrman after what he said about him when he did that. But, as part 1 also showed, in the very same video, Sam later cites Bart Ehrman as an authority on ego e me, right? The meaning theologically, the very thing he said he wasn't qualified to talk about, and that really isn't his specialty. It's, again, New Testament textual criticism and history of the manuscripts. And that, again, overlaps with theological issues, but that doesn't make it his specialty. Sam has no real, again, he's not sophisticated, okay? You're going to see, I'm going to show you right now just how unsophisticated he is in interpreting. And the Bart Ehrman thing is this is just one way of doing it. Okay, so the thing is, so part 1, right, we get into all that. His failure to understand the whole New Testament, first century era and concepts available for people like Bart Ehrman to say what they say, and he gets that all wrong. He's just not smart. He's not qualified. He gets the whole ego and me thing wrong and exposes himself as a hypocrite with Bart Ehrman as an authority, right? So stupid. He also blows the whole divine name thing with Jesus and what it means to be given the name Yahweh. We get into all this. Parts 1, parts 2. We talk about things like that. We talk about a lot of stuff. We talked about 1 Corinthians 10:4 and Deuteronomy 32 and how Sam completely blows it, right? He totally misidentifies the rock in 1 Corinthians 10:4. The Greek word is Petra. As he misidentifies it as Yahweh, as the rock in Deuteronomy 32, when that's not Petra. The only use of Petra in Deuteronomy 32 is accompanied by the exact same things that describe Petra in 1 Corinthians 10:4. Drinking and eating from a literal rock, as that account says they did, as does the only other use of Petra in Deuteronomy, which is not for God, right? He lied to everybody and acted like they were the exact same, literally quoted text after text without going to the actual text because he knew they weren't the same. He's a liar. Okay, he's a deceiver. Without this, what has he got? I just told you, he can't do anything. So it's either keep deceiving, keep getting these weak people to believe they need me and give me money that I don't deserve, right? While I avoid paying taxes and abuse my kids. Or he's got nothing, right? Which is what he should have. And then he'd finally become a real man, maybe. But because he's surrounded by non-men, we got to deal with him. All right, so all this stuff is included. I also, in part 3, there's a lot more, right? I'm just giving you a brief summary in the earlier parts up to this one. Part 3, we talked a little bit about Sam's obsession with people like me and this Muslim woman And I talked about how, he masturbates to her. Sam has a confessed masturbation problem. Again, I'm not kidding. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just I'm summarizing so you know. And this is who we're talking about, right? So if you're Bart Ehrman or anyone else, this is who you're dealing with, okay? You're not dealing with a credible person here. You can go ahead and ignore this one, Bart. I'll take care of this pig for you, right? It's really easy, and I love it. So please, just know he's nothing like a real person, not even a real man, okay? Mangina is the closest thing to a man he's going to have. And that's in name only, the first part. Like he's like a biological male, we think, but anatomically, it's debatable, right? So now I also said, either in that video or in another one, I was talking about it because either an impersonator or the real Cora came, and Sam, of course, will use her or anyone else an impersonator or himself, right? He often pretends to be a woman, and started like complaining about me saying he masturbates to Cora. And I said, well, look, Sam masturbates if he sees a woman, right? Like Sam has said, if he eats, he masturbates. So when he sees a woman, it's like it's immediate almost, right? If he's got any ability to go private, right? Like in the bathroom or somewhere, usually is what he likes to do if he's at home. But if he's not, he'll just leave as fast as he can. If you ever see Sam in a rush, like he's rushing. We also showed Sam gyrating. I have a clip coming up. We caught him, like his first video about Cora in part 3 that we caught. 45% of his videos over the last month of videos were about this woman. And the very first one has him gyrating with one hand missing, and he's doing the masturbation motion, right? You tell me. I have a clip coming up. You get to analyze it. But I said, he masturbates to Mary. And I think people took that the wrong way. I don't mean Sam thinks of Mary naked. I mean, he might. Remember, Sam doesn't have a normal relationship with his parents. He was abandoned after the Shia raped his Whore Babylon mother. The mother who raised him, that I know, who hates him, and the dad, who's a legend, found him on the doorstep with a dent in his head, crying out for food already. So the mom had sympathy. He became her little cow. The dad was gone in less than a second. Okay, so whether he actually thinks of Mary is who he thinks of as his mother now. He doesn't have a mother. Unless, it's the mother who hates him or the mother who gave him up and put a dent in his head, right? So, no, that's why he freaks out over Mary so much. We're going to be getting into her a lot more. Remember, Catholics and Orthos, if he wasn't with you guys, he would just attack you like he did with the Protestants, attack you with Mary. Sam doesn't really care. But he actually has adopted Mary as his sort of mother. So I don't really think he would masturbate with her naked unless his relationship is so tweaked. That's what happens when you get abandoned like that. Look at how he is. He can't function on any level. So the idea that he wouldn't misfunction with his dysfunction when he's masturbating and think of Mary, when I say that though, I don't mean I think he thinks of her naked. That's not what I meant. That's what he does with Cora, though, right? Real women. I think with Mary, because of his motherliness to how he sees her he doesn't see Cora as a mother. But when he masturbates, he'll talk to Mary. Yes, he does. He's crazy. So he doesn't have anyone else to talk to like that. He doesn't have a mother. That dad's a legend, but gone. And no one else really cares about him. They just want him to keep telling them about the Trinity, and they have to pay him for that. So he's just a hired gun without a mother. And so he's adopted Mary. And because he masturbates so much, I think he does. He's talking to her like, I'm sorry. He's confessing, okay? For Sam, he can do both at the same time. He's that gone. So He's going to confess anyway, and he's going to masturbate anyway. So what are you talking about? Again, I know you guys are like, you pretend to be thin skinned and care about this stuff. And, oh, how could you say that? Yeah, literally, while you guys promote statues and icons that you're supposed to be breaking in half. But you're worried about Mary, whom you're not supposed to be making a statue and icon out of, while he is trying to get her to forgive him for masturbating. And I believe doing that while he's masturbating. I don't believe he's masturbating to her and thinking of her naked like he does Cora or any woman, right? Me, probably. He is, oh yeah. No, he masturbates to me too. Does that make you feel better, Cora? Right? Yeah, I don't like it. What am I supposed to do? Right? If we could somehow, just get him to throw himself in the ocean, that's the only, otherwise we're all going to have to endure his abuse. Okay? There is no way out. If you're involved with Sam, you just got to you got to punish him. Like we're doing right now. Okay, so then I get into whole 1 Corinthians 10:4. I'm giving a brief summary. I totally exposed him. If he ever uses 1 Corinthians 10:4, his whole library catalog gone, right? It's only referring to the exact same type of rock that gave them food and drink in Deuteronomy 32. Paul is spiritualizing that literal rock, Petra. Ha ha! Oh, clip short coming up. It was so good. Shows how unqualified he is. What a liar he is, right? Yeah, no, it's big. We also highlighted how he doesn't understand being an heir, inheriting things. Exposed him on Jesus being a slave before becoming a man, right? No different than a slave, Sam. Galatians 4, we're going to get to in a minute. Yeah, sorry, pal. He owns everything but doesn't have anything, and that's how he was given the people of Israel in Deuteronomy 32 as Michael the Archangel. It's game over. Michael the Archangel is literally there at the end of that account in Deuteronomy 32 when Moses dies. Oh, it's over. Jude says Michael's right there arguing with Satan over his people, Sam, the leader of his people. Why are they his people? Oh, well, because he either has owned them, like you said, the whole time since they've been made, which contradicts the fact that he gave those people. So the Father had to own them apart from the Son at some point. So you're wrong in the way that you described it, that whole point. And Sam, Michael the Archangel is there fighting for his people. He's the one who meets with Joshua, Joshua 5, Sam. Right. So Michael the Archangel is appointed as the owner of the people of Israel, and the sons of God are given the rest of the nations. Yahweh is still, of course, being the father of the one who has the people. He's simply using them like he explains in Exodus 23. Sam and all the pagans, even the Protestants, go with later creeds that redefine the Bible without any apostles present. Oh, but they had a pagan emperor who just lied to a bunch of people about a vision where he saw a cross that he could use to tell people to go conquer and war in. Yeah, and then made giant statues of himself and didn't even get baptized until his deathbed, but not by a Trinitarian. We should all follow that, right? It makes sense. It fits. It's apostolic, right? Ask the orthos. They love Constantine. So does everyone. They all do until they don't, right? Then all of a sudden, oh, it's just the Bible. Just the Bible. And we don't need Constantine. Oh yeah, you do. He literally gave you the term that carried it all the way through. The rest of the required understanding of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So yeah, I don't think so. I think I'll go with Paul, Jesus, Peter, and all the apostles. Right? So and Sam, we talked also real quickly. We talked about Isaiah. Let me show you also. We talked about Isaiah 43:7. Sam had no explanation for Isaiah 43:7. He brought it up and he doesn't seem to understand, right? Not only is it a pattern that shows that what is described of Jesus in like Philippians 2, where Jesus is given God's name for his glory, for the Father's glory, right? Not God, it's like the Father. Fits the exact pattern described in Isaiah 43:7 about how God calls people by his name whom he creates for his glory. That's the same thing we see in Philippians 2. Even if you want to set aside the creation part, it's still got the giving his name for his glory. And you guys say, so what Sam doesn't understand is it's not so much me applying that in a parallel sense with what happens to Jesus from the application of Isaiah 45 to Jesus in Philippians 2, Sam. I'm showing you that even though that is true, right? And he is described as being created all over the place, but you guys argue a creature can't be given God's name or called by his name like the angels do and like Jesus is. Okay, that's a lie. So Isaiah 43:7 proves that's a lie because regardless of who that's like applying to, it says they're created. So a creature is called by God's name for his glory. So that argument is dead. God logic says that all the time and has said it for a long time. So now all his videos have this lie in them, all because you guys couldn't figure out that Isaiah 43:7 literally contradicts your premise. That you can't be called by God's name and be a creature, right? It not only says that, but that the reason is, see, Sam, it's not just that you're wrong there. It literally tells you why he does that. For his glory. The exact thing you see, in addition to being created and given God's name, with Jesus. So the fact that you're having such a hard time with this just shows you're an evil person. You don't care, and you're going to keep lying until you are punished sufficiently by the Father. Now, we did another video right here, if you look. Real briefly. My channel here. So you see how this is part 5 in the Bart Ehrman series? Well, I also did another video that relates very much to what we're talking about, but that is a very harsh rebuke to Sam because of how he lied while I was listening, and I jumped on right after he finished to prove he's such a liar, because he fully abused this whole concept, like I was mentioning earlier, about when Jesus was given these people. Remember, I told you how I talked about it in the earlier parts. Sam then got on and tried to address it, but totally got it wrong. So then I got on and I did this video right here. Right, so if you see to where I am, there's a video. Oh, that's a good one. You need to see. If you haven't seen this Game Over podcast number 4, that's funny. I listened to part of that day. I thought that people enjoy that. And it's good. We can also look at his disgustingness, right? 2 different photos of his toxicity growing in his mouth. Okay, so let me make it a little smaller, right? Right, so you can see that's a Game Over podcast over here. This is another series. In fact, we're going to go to part 2 of this on the far left. Sam Shamoun and his cult's response. We're going to go to that again, that same video I talked about there, which is another one, after we're done with this. Hopefully we'll finish this one by tomorrow, part 6. So right, here's another Bart Ehrman. This is what, part 3 right here in the middle, or with Bart and Sam talking. Okay, but outside of the parts, you see how that one's labeled part 3 in black right here? This video right here was Sam, not the return of the functional reject Sam, the Game Over podcast on the far left. No, the one to the right of that with Fat Sam. And he's like, he's got a problem with his breasts bursting out of his quadruple X size shirt, right? Anyway, that video right here, even though it's not part of the series with Bart Ehrman and Sam, like we're doing right now, it's not labeled, it's still related, okay? Very much so. And it's a harsh rebuke because of his lies and deception over the issues we mentioned about Deuteronomy 32. Colossians 1:15 through 17, right? He blows it. Makes a false comparison on every single point about the things we were talking about with Isaiah 43:7. He's really having a hard time with that and everything, and his weight. But that video right here, this is a harsh rebuke, deserving. He's a pile of garbage. He attacked my mother, and he lied horrifically And I'm entitled to harshly rebuke a pig who's attacking me in these ways and lying about God. So just be aware, that one, I let him have it. I'm not here to just tolerate a fatso lying about me and God every day. If he's going to make me get up, and I have fun doing it, and I will, I'm going to make him pay. And quite honestly, it works. The other stuff you might be thinking works doesn't work. It never works and never has worked. And what he needs is a swift kick in the ass. Okay, I can't give him that though physically. And we've already passed the point where he should have gotten a beat down. So short of that happening, he has to be punished in whatever other way we can do to get him off the air, right? He's not a legitimate person. He's a creep and a weirdo. He's literally a blasphemer and an abuser and stupid, okay? He has no business doing any of this stuff, but he's been embraced. Okay, he's literally disgraced Protestantism, Catholicism, and all of them. They all embrace Sam Shamoun in ways that legitimized him. Yes, they have, and they're doing it right now. Right now. Literally platforming him and making him apologize with key figures for whatever reason we can't figure out, but they only care about using people to attack people they don't agree with. They don't care about morality, hence they use the statues, the icons, and they literally corrupt the Bible all the time, pray to the dead, and say the stupidest things ever, all without using the name of God in any consistent or a legitimate manner. Not that they care, right? The ortho-pagans can't. They don't believe he has a name, and they certainly don't use it. And quite honestly, ortho-pagans, I don't know why you're so upset at the Muslims. The Catholics are the ones that completely raped you guys and set you up to be blown out by the Turks, right? The Catholics came over, found all these Hesychists, and just went insane and thought these guys are gone, right? You either become Catholic right now and knock off this schism, or we're going to rape you guys, take all your stuff, and leave you for the Turks. And that's what they did, right? So the Catholics are the ones who wiped you guys out. So funny to me. Anyway, we've blown Sam out on all these things and more. Now, he's even though he's relevant, like we're saying, he's also not in many ways, but because he's been legitimized by all these pagan groups, he has visibility, right? He's got a lot of subscribers. People are still stupid enough to use him, like we're saying, right? Like high-profile platforms, okay? It's not minor stuff. He barely cracked 200 today. Okay, I don't know what he ended up with. I only watched part of it. I can finish it later. And watching Sam is like just watching a rerun, right? Or watching a run in his pants. It's pointless. As you're going to see, he repeats himself all the time. He rarely ever comes up with anything new, and when he does, it's ignoring things people have taught. Like another point we brought up, he tried to argue that because, I think it was an apocryphal work, says that Jesus' wisdom is forever because I cited one of my works. He was also citing Proverbs 8. And I do believe he was trying to use it to show Jesus was still wisdom, like from the pre-human, which I believe. But he's too stupid to understand. I agree he's the same person. Different nature, just like the Bible teaches. He can never figure this out, okay? And we're going to talk more about it as we come up. But that's about the extent. He's just forgotten that I've actually quoted texts in the Bible that have Jesus talking his wisdom as a man. He didn't seem to understand that. But he has deficiencies, not just, I'm telling you, he's popular because a lot of lames and weak people need someone to screech lies in their ears. Paul says people are going to get teachers for themselves to tickle their ears to their destruction. So there's a broad road, okay? It's not like a few people do. There's a lot of people that do this, and they were panicked in the New Testament, the first century, over this happening there. We talked about Jude. We talked about all these incidents and people before. They're right there. Okay, but Sam he's losing people. People are figuring him out. There's a lot of trauma bonding. It's not easy. Even David Wood is barely figuring out, but again, I don't think anybody has really gotten over what they allowed Sam to do to them, which I have not allowed, okay? I have not permitted a pervert to like manipulate me to the point where I can't make good decisions, you know? Um, Many people have, though. Army of Fitness. Well, you just have to keep listening. There's a ton of videos, so you got to watch it and just take a look. You'll see. But it shouldn't surprise you too much. Sam's a liar. He also defamed my mother in very offensive ways, like he does everyone else. He's all around a bad person. He's been abusing his daughters and attacking me while doing so, okay? So, does that give you kind of an idea, Army of Fitness? Yeah, it's bad. Okay, so he barely cracked 200 from what I could see today, and I watched well over an hour. So he's barely hanging on. He's collapsing. That's good. We want to pour it on, okay? Don't watch him unless you really have to, or you're like me and you're like doing it to break him down. Just keep sucking him dry. That's what he does to us. Sam tries to keep people, he's a cult leader. So he tries to keep people from watching me. He'll do competing lives, all this stuff. Let's give him a taste of that, okay? I don't really care about it. I mean, I want people to see it, but he's obsessed with it, and he won't watch me. He won't listen and learn like he's supposed to, proving again what I've been telling you. He's not fit for this stuff. Now, let's go to Galatians. We need to see this. You need to see what Sam's been doing. We're going to get to Bart Ehrman again. There's a lot there, of course. But this relates to that, okay? So you need to see this, because this is really big where Sam blew it again. So I've told you where he's been blowing it, right? He's been blowing it on 1 Corinthians 10. Literally completely missed every single reference that would relate to the point he was trying to make in Deuteronomy 32. Or the whole book, right? It was incredible. So not only do we have a different interpretation, we don't need to humor them at all in terms of this whole rock connection. It's literally talking about a non-living, real rock that provided food and water or oil to the people that Paul spiritualizes in 1 Corinthians, right? Gone. So that is over. Let's see them edit their videos, right? So now, or you're just going to leave it in there and make people stupid even though you know you're wrong. That's how you know they're evil, right? They don't correct themselves, everybody. They still think they're right even though they're wrong because they don't care. Look, let me show you. Oh, real quickly. I should say hi to everyone. I didn't do that yet, did I? I don't want to forget and go all the way to the end. We had a couple people we had to ban because it was Sam, and we're not here to get perved out all the time, Sam. Just pay attention, please. Betsy, NZ Brandon. We got a lot tonight, Sam. You need to listen, man. You need to listen. I know you will. We had a lot of people go insane. We left a couple people here who are insane. Mr. Yeezy. Mr. West. Yeezy, Mr. West. Terry BD. Okay, whatever, Terry. Thank you. Okay, it looks like you're okay. You're doing good there. Sam can't understand the name of Jesus. That's true. He's gone. Harlampro, Sammy, come out and play. We have a new video coming for Sam, a new trailer with him as a pervert. You guys are going to like it. He's doing the thing. Greggy, come out to play. Angel Celeste Shipman, good evening, Greg. I'm joining a bit late. I hope you had a wonderful weekend so far. God bless you, brother. Same to you. Wonderful to have you. Pinkhead. Yes, he knows it. And he's roach infested, like you said. He has problems, right? We caught him wiping a monitor with a tissue and then wiping his face, right? Maybe he licked it too, right? He likes to eat like everything. Gabriel RL7NV, you have left Sam trembling. He cannot stop uploading videos about you. He is obsessed, is he not? It's either me or Cora at this point, right? And I've made a big deal about his masturbation to her. So at this point, he's locked in now. And don't worry, we want this. The more he does, the more we'll do, right? Don't worry, Sam. We're basically going to have a daily show about you. I have plenty of videos on other stuff. Salvation, Bible stuff, canon stuff, right? We will do a few more shows where we just talk about different issues. But for now, because Sam abused my mother and is all around a bad person who abuses his kids live, let's just keep punishing him, okay? There is no reason to back off now or for quite a while, right? Yeah. So Doug Dima Dome, I just told you how popular Sam is. He can barely crack 200 now. And he has what, over 340,000? Come on. And how many of those are fake accounts and people who are like his relatives and who are his... And if you notice, he may have increased his viewers by the end of the show. What happens, I've noticed with Sam, he'll start, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's texting or typing while he's talking and telling people, hey, where are you? Right? Where are you? Why aren't you here? Because then a bunch of people start showing up. I think he bullies them to join because he can see his numbers are so low, right? We're going to catch him, everyone. If you just hang in there with me and you enjoy what we do and you like learning too, then don't hold back now. Ken Anderson, good to see you. Army of Fitness. Go to my channel. Look at the channel description. Go to cwjah.org. Boom. That a boy, another fake name, Sam again, because he can't stop interrupting. He loves to mislead people away from him. He knows he's getting hammered, right? Okay, so let's go to Galatians where Sam collapsed again. Let's go to the Bible, right? Everybody, you got to see this. You really do. Okay. Look at what Sam has done recently. You know how we recently dealt with 1 Corinthians 11. We're going to go to it to show that Sam is wrong, that they're all wrong. They're not only wrong that creation ex nihilo is false, it's scientifically impossible based on legitimate laws of science that prove you can't create something from nothing, which is even conceptually gone, right? But they have to believe it's true to create a separation between God, Jesus, and other creations. When that's never made in the Bible in the way that they do, what happens is the Bible presents an analogy they reject. The analogy the Bible presents, 1 Corinthians 11, we're going to go to it again, shows that Adam is like God, that Eve came out of Adam. It's literally making the point about why there's a difference between a man and a woman doing certain things, covering their head. It's literally making a difference, Sam, between the man and the woman and why the man doesn't have to do certain things that the woman does and is the glory of God, not the woman. So, Sam, the man is then presented, as we're going to see again, as the source, ek, of the woman. And the man is the glory of God, Sam. But it then presents the woman as the dia, through which men are born after Adam impregnates her. And then it says right after that, all things are out of God, ek. So he's literally talking about it in a parallel sense with creation while making the point that men are above women in this sense and the glory of God, not the woman who's the dia, Sam. Who's the glory of God, Sam, in 1 Corinthians 11? Yeah, it's the man. It's the ek, isn't it? Right. And all things are out of God, ek, right? Right. So he's literally talking about why there's a difference between man and woman and why man is more than the woman in these ways. Literally uses the same prepositions in relation to creation to show there's a difference in these ways. And he can't figure it out. Right. So what he does is he does this. He goes to Galatians 4. 4:4. Let's go to the Greek. And he cites a text like this, or, yeah, like this. Where it says, I say now, for as long as time the heir, a child is, not he differs from a slave. Ha ha! We talked about this the other day. Sam, so he's no different, right? Right. That means like zero. No different, right? Right. Not he differs from a slave. So he is a slave as an heir child. We talked about this the other day to prove everything he's ever said about Jesus only becoming a slave as a man and being an heir in terms of owning the people the way he's given them and didn't own them, as Deuteronomy 32 and he says in John 10 and 17 and elsewhere proves. Right. This shows right here you can be an heir as a child and still technically own everything, but actually functionally not own everything until the date set by the Father, Sam, where he's given these things. Just like Deuteronomy 32, and Jesus himself says that you deny because you call him a liar, because you're an antichrist. You're a bad person, Sam. You can't read. Doesn't differ from a slave, Sam. How come you couldn't read? Totally blew that, right? So he's no different from a slave, even though he owns everything technically because he's the heir. That's what an heir means to Sam. Did you know that an heir means you can't actually do anything with anything until you become of age? Did you know that? Right. That's what it says right here. Only you somehow couldn't figure that out and blew it all, right? So, in addition to blowing it all, let's go back actually. It's 4:4, I'm sorry. So we covered that. But this is what Sam does. Okay, so you know how I said Sam totally ignores the very clear analogy Paul gives for creation, how Adam is the glory of God, the ek out of which Eve comes, how Eve, the dia through which man comes, paralleling ek and dia with Jesus and God in 1 Corinthians 8, proven by the rest of the verse, which says all things are out of God, ek. She's not the glory of God as dia, Sam. She's the glory of man in this analogy, and with Jesus, it would be the glory of God in an analogous sense with Eve as a secondary glory, Sam. Yeah, not the primary glory that Adam is, or she'd have to be the ek, Sam, in the creative sense. This is where Sam tries to deceive people. He knows the power of that analogy, okay? He knows he can't do anything with it because of the explicit relationship shown that differentiates Adam from Eve there, with Adam as the ek and the glory of God, and Eve as the dia, the passive agent that receives Adam's active seed, creative seed, and then she takes care of and prepares the child within her, just like Jesus, through and in whom. Until when, Sam? Until she gives birth, right? What happens then, Sam? The child, what? Comes out of the woman, right? Sam tries to argue, or he does argue, that because the already out of the man, God, analogous sense, child, and the already into and through Eve child is born out of Eve, he falsely parallels that with ek out of Adam. Look, he quotes this text or one like it. When, however, had come the fullness of the time, sent forth the God, the Son of him, having been born of, out of, ek, a woman. Having been born, same term, exact same term, genomenon, under the law. So it's talking about his actual out of the woman birth, Sam. It says under the law. Parallel sequence, same verb, born out of. We know Eve, Sam, isn't ek, 1 Corinthians 11. She's not the source of what came in and through her. Again, this is what you're dealing with, okay? This is what he argues. He argues that ek here, because ek is used of the born child, that it's analogous to ek in 1 Corinthians 11. Let's go to it. This is how insane this guy is, okay? You guys need to understand what you're dealing with, all right? You're not dealing with a normal person. He's a lunatic. 1 Corinthians 11, 6 We'll read 6 through 12. Look, if for not covers her head a woman also, let her be shorn, right? Or have her hair cut off. If it is now disgraceful to a woman to be shorn or to be shaven, let her cover her head. Verse 7. A man truly for naught ought to cover the head. Image and glory of God being. Now, this also uses the verb that Sam has many times misapplied from Philippians 2 that we're going to get to in many ways, videos, because he talks about it and blows it. The fact, Sam, that it's a present participle does not make or mean anything about it being eternal or ongoing without qualification by the context. He's kind of modified his horrible use of this participle in Philippians 2 and elsewhere. I think the orthopagans kind of helped him there because even they could see he was like losing it on the verbal form, saying it meant he was eternal because how stupid he is. Anyway, it says, man, truly not to cover his head, image and glory of God being, right? There's a direct contrast here, is there not, with man and woman. The woman, however, glory of man is. Verse 8. Not for is man of woman. Sam, can you see that? Not man out of woman. So what is it talking about there, Sam? I know you don't know how to interpret the Bible, right? And you guys, even though you have these apologetic schools and you talk about hermeneutics, you all fail, right? It's a catastrophe. Lying to yourselves. Excuse me. Thank you. Right here, Sam. What does it mean when it says not is man out of woman when we already read, and we're going to read again, man is out of woman? Right? We read that in Galatians 4, right? So why would it say here in 1 Corinthians 11:8, man is not out of woman? Can you please explain that, Sam? Because if you ever even try to explain how stupid you are with 1 Corinthians 11:8 and Galatians 4:4, if you try to explain the difference, why Paul says man is not, and then why Paul says man is out of woman, right there, you will understand our position. Okay? That's how simple it is, my friend. All you have to do is go to 1 Corinthians 11:8. Read it, the first part even. You don't even have to read the whole verse, Sam. Real simple. See how it says, man is not out of woman. Then just go back, Sam. Go back. See how Galatians 4:4 says, when the time came, God sent forth his son out of woman. But it says man is not out of woman. Is Jesus a man, Sam? Or was he born as a man? Is this different? Galatians 4:4 and 1 Corinthians 11:8, I'm sorry. So Sam, I would like you to explain how Jesus as a man is out of a woman, even though it makes it clear, right? It's because that's how, right? We all know. But even though Sam also knows this, he has tried to conflate it with this. And act like they're the same. When the very same writer, Paul, this is how deceptive and stupid Sam is. The very same writer says man is out of woman, having been born of the law, so at birth, and says man is not out of woman. In this context, is it talking about birth here? If so, why would he say man is not out of a woman when not only is Jesus out of a woman, we're all out of a woman when we're born? That's not how we're made, though, which is the whole point. But setting that aside for a minute, It's so bad with him, right? Sam. So 1 Corinthians 11:8, Galatians 4:4. Exact same writer, says two different things. What do they mean? When you explain that, unless you somehow find a way to contradict Paul and say, well, he says man is not out of woman right here. So we know he's not talking about the way Jesus is out of woman as a man born. What is he talking about? I want you to explain that. I know, and I'm going to explain it right now. But Sam, the reason I'm both asking you and giving you the answer is because unless you give the same answer I give and legitimize my view and show you're stupid, you're not going to ever answer this. Because how are you going to answer it without showing he's contradicting himself unless you adopt my answer? Right. And so you have been caught, my friend. And we're going to keep doing this and doing it and doing it and clipping it and doing it, right? This is what would happen to you, by the way. Anytime had you gone live with me, I would have annihilated. This is like nothing. See, we actually know the Bible, Sam. Any Watchtower person would take you out. That's why you're trauma bonded with us, right? You were taken out so many times. But you become a bully in many ways, and you seek out the weak people when you yourself are the weakest person alive, right? Man's not out of a woman, Sam. What's he talking about? But woman is out of man, right? So what does that mean? Well, we talked about this in the last video. And Genesis, of course, explains very clearly how this is the case. You're free to contradict if you want. No one does. She's out of man because God took her out of man when he made her and sealed Adam back up. So Adam, or the man, was not out of woman. But the woman was out of man. What's this talking about, Sam? Is this talking about birth? No, because then you'd have a contradiction with Galatians 4, right? Exactly. He's very clearly talking about creation. He's setting up the parallel of why man and woman are different. A man ought not to cover the head because he's the image and glory of God. The woman, however, is the glory of man. So he's making a very clear difference in terms of glory. And then he shows why that's the case. He's literally proving right here what we already know from Hebrews 1:3 and Galatians, John 17 and many other texts, including John 1:18. They don't have the same glory. Yeah, the same glory as the Spirit, and he's the radiance of the glory. Right here it proves that more than anything. Woman is not the glory of God, but the glory of man here, Sam. Not for the man is out of the woman. Well, we know that's not talking about Galatians 4:4. Woman is out of man. Oh, it's talking about when they were created. Gotcha. Because that's why he goes on to parallel it with the woman actually coming out of the man. He's saying this is what happened, not this. Any idiot should be able to see it, just not Sam. So what is he, right? In any case, let's go to verse 9. This is literally what he tried to argue and how bad he is. Verse 9, truly for naught was created. Sam! Hey, Sam. Let's talk about creation. Like I just said in the prior verse, it's like really explicit now. Can you see it? Okay, good. For truly naught was created. Ektiste. Man. Doesn't say who created him, by the way, just like in Colossians 1:15. It's the same verb form, by the way, right? Man on account, not was created man on account of the woman. It's talking explicitly about creation. Woman on account of the man. Verse 10. It's using dia in a different sense here, not the purpose sense, the reason sense, not instrumental. It has multiple purposes, and there I believe As you can see, it's used with the accusative. So, whereas when it's used in the creation sense, like we're talking about, it's used with the genitive. So, 1 Corinthians 11:10, because of this, right? Tutto, Sam, everything he's been talking about. The woman authority to have on the head, she should. Ought to, it said. On account of the angels. So we're clearly talking about a different type of creation relative to man and angels. How the man is superior to the woman in this sense, in the way that he was made, created. So he was not out of the woman, Sam. Woman was out of the man. It's talking about the creation, Sam. When he's talking about his son coming out of a woman, he's talking about being born. It literally said that under the law. That happens when you come out of the woman. You're not in the law until you're out of the woman, Sam. Let's continue because this becomes more clear. Verse 11, however, neither is woman separate from man. Excuse me. Nor man separate from woman in the Lord. In other words, we don't use these differences, these reasons for why the man is considered different and closer to God in some sense, but that woman still being in the close sense that's the same with man and God, that with man. We're together when we're together, and there's ultimately no experiential difference if we are together in that way. If we're not, well, then that's the order of operations, right? We just read it. 1 Corinthians 11:12. Just as for the woman, again, we're talking creation. We're talking rank, but creation. It literally gave the reason for why one is different in terms of rank and authority with respect to man and angels as their creation. So these people try to create a difference in rank and authority, but not with the creation involved. They create these distinctions that are always a part of why that difference is involved, especially in the context that we're talking about here with creation. Verse 12, just as the woman of the man. Sam, just as the woman is out of the man. So also the man through the woman is. What's he talking about here, Sam? The woman is out of the man. Just as, right? That's what he was telling us earlier. The Galatians 3, right? Where she was taken out of Adam. The woman is out of the man. I don't think anybody disagrees that's what this means. This use of ek. This is like the creation sense we've been talking about. Where she's created out of Adam. Adam's not created out of her. So it says, just as the woman is created out of the man, so the man is what? Created through the woman. That's what it's talking about. It's literally been talking about and even used the verb ektiste. It's not talking about being born as a child. We can all see that unless you want to try to make an argument otherwise. It literally said man is not out of woman when it started, proving it's not talking about what he is talking about in Galatians 4, the actual out of woman birth part, which is out after the out of Adam God part and the through woman Jesus part. Sam literally equated the ek out of from the birth part to the ek out of that even preceded the in through part, right? Everybody. Just how long are we supposed to take? How badly do you need someone to lie about the Trinity like this? Do you understand that listening to Sam is going to destroy you? Yeah, he'll make you feel temporarily better because he's lying and you're too stupid, I guess, to hear it, to understand. What's going to happen when you use this stuff on someone like me? It's going to all get wrecked because you're thinking he's killing it, right? That's how poisonous it is to listen to this guy. He's that stupid. I've been beating him my whole life. Back in the AOL days, back in the field ministry. The guy is a clown. He can't function socially. He can barely communicate with people for extended periods. And you're relying on him to teach you of the metaphysics of God. Right? So insane. You guys deserve it all if you fall for this guy. For the woman out of the man, Sam. That happened when? When she was created. Like it's been saying. So also the man is through the woman. That's when he was created, right? So like when another man impregnates a woman and the child is developed in the woman and ultimately born out of the woman. Look, it goes on to say, all things are out of God. It's clearly been and still is talking directly about creation. It even used the same verb as Colossians 1, 15 through 16, 17, and is related to 1 Corinthians 8, 6. Right here, doesn't use dia for God, only uses it for the woman who is not the image and glory of God, right? So in this analogy, he would again only be the radiance of God's glory, which is exactly what Paul calls him. And he, Jesus being the equivalent of the woman here, is the passive source in whom God creates, in and through whom God creates. It's not talking about the birth, Sam. Nowhere in here. Literally everybody, nowhere in 1 Corinthians 11, 6 through 12 that we were reading is talking about the birth part. Where like after the ek or seed or power out of God's spirit goes into Jesus or the woman, in and through, then comes out of after it's been fully made, right? Which is exactly what we believe about Jesus. They're in and through him, and he preserves them, and he puts them together even, we believe, according to the discussion of wisdom. But he first has to see what the Father does, observe, learn, temporality, and do likewise. Hamoyo, Sam. You always lie about that. No, it says like Sam. It doesn't say identical Sam. Oh, and did he see him beget him eternally? We're not even involving time here. Did he see him beget him eternally? And then did he do the same thing? See and beget his own son eternally? Because he sees and does everything the Father does, right? Only not that, right? Right? So he doesn't see and do everything. Exactly. Right here, we can see Sam's lied. He totally blew it in terms of the analogy, right, he was trying to make with the born, like in Galatians 4, and the actual creation we're talking about in 1 Corinthians 11. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple other. Let's look at Luke, just to finish this off before we get to him and Bart Ehrman. But this was so important because he's been lying again. Sam's been lying again. And it really never stops, right? He only gets worse. Look, Sam, let's just look at the actual account. Well, we'll read all. This is probably better. Having risen up then, Mary, in the days this, she went into the hill country with haste to a town of Judah. Verse 40, Luke chapter 1. And she entered, talking about Mary, into the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. Verse 41. I told you we'd be talking more about Mary, but this is all good. And it always is good because it's the truth. And it came to pass, as heard the greeting of Mary, Elizabeth leaped the baby in the womb of her and was filled with the Spirit, holy Elizabeth. So right here we can see that the child is alive, filled with the Spirit, responding to voices and greetings, right? Leaping. It's talking about John the Baptist. But it's the same thing, right? So the child that's born, in the analogy that we're talking about, that when it says that man is through the woman, after having been created, after Adam's created, after Eve's created out of Adam, it says that man is through the woman in the procreative sense. In 1 Corinthians 11, that's the only time it brings up, it doesn't get into the birth, but it says man is through. But it's talking about this right here. This is the man is through part of 1 Corinthians 11, where after Adam is already created, right? Out of God, out of the dust of the earth. Then Adam, being the image and glory of God that Eve is not, he's the source of Eve. God takes a part of Adam, out of Adam, no creation ex nihilo, seals it back up and creates Eve out of it. Same substance, different being, just like Jesus. Same analogy being played to talk about the same thing. So then Adam creates things through and in Eve when he reproduces with her. She receives his creative seed, and then in her, the child is made and developed and then capable of all that you're reading right here, right? And even goes on further. And she cried out in a voice loud and said, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of the womb of you." Verse 43, "And from whence to me this should come the mother of the Lord of me to me." One more verse. "Behold, for as came the voice of the greeting of you into the ears of me, leaped in exultation the baby in the womb of me." Right? This is what 1 Corinthians 11 is talking about. This is literally John the Baptist as a man, right? The very thing Paul's talking about, man being born through the woman. He's not born out of the woman yet, Sam. Don't you see the preposition right there? Look, right? The baby in Sam. When you're in, like when it says all things were created in and through him. So just like with Eve or woman, Paul says that man is through her after he's already made, and then Adam procreates, and then he's through her. It also uses and Sam, right? So, and then it says man is not out of woman in the creative sense, Sam, but only out of her in the born sense of Galatians 4. So right here we can see that the baby in the woman, in Elizabeth, Sam, is the same in and through as the through that Paul's talking about with men in 1 Corinthians 11. Men are through the woman, Sam. They're through and in them, just like creation is through and in Jesus after he's the firstborn, just like after Eve is taken out of Adam. Same thing. So right here, we once again get prepositional correspondence to what we're talking about and the fact that the child is in full development, but for the birth part, right? It's just the out of sense that the born is talking about under the law specifically. He totally conflates that with the creative out of that's specifically not that in 1 Corinthians 11. That's how stupid this guy is, right? It's really incredible when you sit back and you analyze how badly he gets this stuff wrong, right? It's really fascinating. If he didn't have the following of lames that he does, I wouldn't even care. He would just be the screeching cow, you know. But because there's so many stupids we try to help, and it's kind of fun. It's fun. It takes no effort. I have no notes. I'm literally just talking to you. You know, it's how easy it is to deal with this guy. Luke 2:4. Went up then also Joseph from the Galilee out of the town of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because of his out of the house and family of David. Verse 4. We're just going to stay with this. It's a little clunky with the kind of interlinear or parallel linear, but it's better overall, and it still makes sense, I think you can see. To register with Mary, the one being betrothed to him, she being with child. Okay, so she has the child. It's in her, Sam. It's not out of her yet. It's been created in and through her. Do you understand that now? Well, let's go to verse 6. It came to pass then, in their being there, were fulfilled the days of the giving birth, Sam. Okay, so Sam, we're talking about an event that happens after the dia and en. You understand that now? Probably not, but we'll keep going. And she brought forth the son of her. The firstborn. Exactly. Because that's what it means. And Jesus is actually not Mary's only child. That's clear from the New Testament, like I'm going to be proving in an upcoming live stream. But right here, that's also clear, right? He's the firstborn, Sam. That means there's a secondborn. Yeah, Mary had other children. Everyone who's not a pervert like you who masturbates to her knows. So she gave birth, Sam. Did you see that part where the birth happened? Probably not. Firstborn? Probably not. It is just the preeminent, Sam. He wasn't actually born here, There's no birth here, even though it says birth, and he says to be born all the time, too. It's insane. I only begotten, it's over. Wrapped in swaddling cloths him and laid him in manger because not there was for him a place in the inn. Okay, so Sam, it's kind of clear to everybody but you, I think, that when Paul's talking about out of, in Galatians 4, he literally says under the law that Jesus was born. It's not talking about when God created him in and through her in the sense in which she was impregnated by the Holy Spirit and incubated through to the point, like John the Baptist, where he becomes a full child and just hasn't separated from the mother yet. Right, that's the same with Jesus, by the way, in creation. Bible says it goes in and through him first, Sam. Did you know that? Did you know, Sam? Ha ha! Hey, Sam, did you know technically you could say all things came out of Jesus too? I know. So I can't use 1 Corinthians 8:6 anymore, huh? No, actually I can, because coming out of Jesus, just like coming out of woman in Galatians 4, is the exact same thing. And in terms of it being 2 steps after, right? The ek of creation, which is literally differentiated from man coming through woman that hadn't even been described as being born yet in 1 Corinthians 11, where man is the ek, Sam, of the woman, and God is the ek of all things, right? So you've blown it completely, my friend. It's a catastrophe on all levels. Anyone who makes that connection, everybody, that right there tells you they have no thought process. Their thought process is basically just dirt. They couldn't even figure out the difference between being out of God or out of Adam, through and in Jesus or the woman, and then actually being born out of the woman out after the original ek and dia have already happened, right? No. Let's just conflate those two because we have no concept of rationality. Last verse on this, Matthew 19:12, Sam. There are eunuchs like Sam who from the womb, Sam, out of. Hey, Sam, I'm doing you a favor. Did you know that? Only I'm not. I'm actually not doing you a favor by showing you another text that uses ek for a human that's born out of a woman after it already came out of God or out of the man who impregnated the woman in and through whom. Right, so that ek that happens after the birth could in no way, Sam, be the ek that even precedes the dia that precedes the ek that is the birth. Do you see how stupid you are? Probably not. I think most people do, though, at this point, right? So it talks about Sam as the eunuch, but then says he's from the womb. He's out of the womb, Sam. Yeah. We're born, right? And then there are eunuchs like Sam. I think Sam is one of these kind who were made eunuchs, right, by men. They and eunuchs were made eunuchs. No, Sam didn't do it because of the kingdom. He did not do that. We think Sam was this kind. Like someone had enough of him. I would have done it, but it was already gone, and I've been dealing with the mangina. Either way, yeah, they're born out of Sam, the womb. Hey, Sam, ek here and in Galatians 4 is not talking about the actual source, right? Well, I guess source of the final product, but it's not talking about the actual parallel source that we talk about when we're talking about, like Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 11, namely 1 Corinthians 8, or any other place where dia and ek relate to creation, which is the subject of 1 Corinthians 11, which is completely different from the ek that relates both to Matthew 12, 19:12 and Galatians 4, the actual birth of the child that's already been ek and dia and en, right? So Sam, you should probably stop talking about the Bible. You're really, really stupid, okay? Let's go to Sam's video, though, where we're going to destroy him and Bart Ehrman while he masturbates. Okay, so if y'all remember, we left off here. I mean, we did a whole video on this verse right here in this series and its connection with Deuteronomy 32. And he made one of the worst exegetical interpretive mistakes of all time. On the same level, basically, is what we just read. That whole ek and dia thing, right? Conflating ek of a fully ek and dia and en child shows how gone he is, right? Right there, if he would have done that in a debate, he just conflated terms and it would have been over, right? This guy's not qualified to do anything. He's really just a bully and a queer. And I mean that in a cowardly sense, not a legitimate homosexual sense, which I don't agree with either in terms of like being healthy. But if he is that way, he's too cowardly to admit it. He'll just attack other homosexuals. That's what I mean. Anyway, he got annihilated. Totally proven false here, okay? I'll put up a separate video so it's specific and relates to 1 Corinthians 10:4 by title. I have another one, but it talks about kind of other stuff, and this was the big one where I went into the whole details of who's the rock in Deuteronomy 32 and how this has nothing to do with identifying him as Yahweh, right? In fact, it proves the opposite. So I'll put that up. Or even a short, it was really good. It's a very clear summary. I'll put that up. This has all been disproven.
Paul doesn't believe Jesus is Yahweh? Really? You see why? May God destroy your fear of men? Right? And don't be intimidated by scholars and their degrees? See it right there? Exactly. When Christ gives you life and nourishes you, saves you, he's being your father without being God the Father, because they work together. And you'll find that in the early church fathers. You'll find fathers saying there's a sense in which the Son is our Father without being God the Father. It's not new.
Right, only he's not the father of Deuteronomy 32. We proved that because not only does the Father already have them, he's the one giving them out to the sons of God, angels of God, right? Michael, the archangel, is literally appointed by God to lead the people, specifically, for sure, from Exodus 23. But Jude identifies Michael as at the end of Deuteronomy 32 when Moses dies, fighting with Jesus. I mean, fighting with the devil, my apologies. Michael's fighting with the devil over Moses' body. So who did he give the people to then, Sam, right? It seems like he gave them to Michael, the angel who's been there, who's the prince of these people, who literally calls himself that, the prince of the armies of Yahweh in Joshua 5, talking to Joshua who took over from Moses, right? So stupid. Yet he goes with this uncreated, nameless angel he identifies as Jesus, just not as Michael, even though Michael's there according to Jude, literally their prince according to Daniel, and he is the only other one there according to Gabriel, right? Fighting against the other princes, sons of God, appointed in Deuteronomy 32. So, yes, Sam, Jesus can be our Father in the Isaiah 9:6 sense in which he gives us life because the Father gave him life first, John 5:26. Total blows him out. You can't give someone life who's eternal. They already have the life they have. There's no such thing as giving life that you don't have. Life is life. So, he was given it. He was created. We know this from all the other terms used that prove it. He even says he lives because of the Father, John 6:57, and we live because of him. So he's our Father in that sense. He's not the Father of Deuteronomy 32, though. It's very clear that's Yahweh, the Most High, who gives these nations to the different sons of God, including Michael. And Jesus says the Father gave them to him. They were yours, John 10, John 17, but you gave them to me. You argue he already had them. When was he giving them to him then? Because he's given everybody away in Deuteronomy 32. Whatever the case is, he's giving the people to Jesus. So it doesn't say anything about Yahweh being given the people in Deuteronomy 32. Well, you're wrong. There, you don't have a connection. You don't even have a connection with the rock thing. You've totally blown it all and just assumed your doctrine, including the Trinity, because saying Jesus is not the God, the Father, is saying he's not God. There's only one God, and that's the Father. Jesus is the only begotten God, a spirit like God who's born from him. It's that simple. Firstborn. There is nothing else needed. We don't need pagan creeds, councils, and we certainly didn't need a bunch of Middle Platonists who went insane and didn't follow the Bible, but venerated the bishop, whom you do as well, but don't follow. Right?
Jim, make sure you watch the beginning, see why I was gone. And why I wasn't gone from live streaming. I was doing it on Rumble.
Trust me, you're 100% gone 100% of the time, pal.
All right, now we got that? You see how Ehrman is destroying himself. He just admitted, Paul said Christ is that rock that was there at the time of Moses in the cloud. That he's Yahweh.
Nope. Paul literally says Jesus is the rock they fed and drank from. Which is, in the account he's quoting, Deuteronomy 32, a real rock, right? That he's spiritualizing. He's not talking about Yahweh at all. He uses a totally different term, even in the Greek translation. That is exactly the term used by Paul, right? Such an idiot.
Now, before I go to the next part, I may have someone who wants to talk about the Trinity. Let's see. You know what the topic is, right, Mario?
Yes, I know what the topic is, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Like I told you on the message, I'm just here just to give you all glory. That's what I'm here for.
Not all
Thank
glory
you.
to me, brother, not me.
Yeah.
You see how ridiculous these people are? Glorifying this fat pig.
But I all glory to God for bringing you into my life.
Oh, you're the
And-
former
and
Satanist?
I'm the former Satanist.
Yeah, come up back there right one before end. I'll talk to you. Come back
Okay.
a little later.
There are a lot of damaged people in the world. Like literally, there's the XJW lore, a bunch of really damaged people. You can tell they just are gone. They may be nice, and I'm not saying they're not functional, but they are gone. Like they went through a really bad experience, like XJW lore with Watchtower. This guy was a Satanist, right? So they're like really, really damaged, like Sam. So a lot of those people, they kind of connect with him because how messed up they are. And he just messes them up further.
All right, brother.
Okay.
God bless you. He meant well, brother. He was trying to say he was a Satanist. He worships Jesus.
Also, what Sam does a lot, okay, and this is a big part of Sam's like deception, he'll have people call in and fake it. Oh, he's done this for so long. He gets people to call in and pretend like they're converted Muslims, or he gets a lot of people to lie and fake, pretending they changed from Watchtower. Or sometimes what happens, like with someone like XJW Laura, there are these broken people that really do. They have no idea, and people will throw them over to Sam because they're just so stupid they can't think for themselves. And so they're like, they're not fake. They're not like Sam will set up people to fake pretend, right? He's so insecure, and they all of them do this. They'll kind of go back and forth. They kind of get on these different waves of fake converts to try to one-up each other, make each other feel bad. So stupid. But occasionally you get these broken people that actually do just collide. Like you heard that guy, or that Satanist. He said to give glory to Sam, right? So he's clearly gone. He hasn't figured out anything yet. Even Sam knew how stupid he was and tried to get him to moderate himself, while behind the scenes he'll masturbate later, right? So he loves that, but he doesn't want people to know he loves that. So he downplays it a lot. In fact, he'll even have people, I wouldn't be surprised if you had that guy call and say what he said, just so Sam could pretend he doesn't want you to glorify him. That's how screwed up he is. Oh.
That's what he meant. He was a former Satanist, so we'll hear him out before we end it. Okay. Now, did everyone see what Ehrman taught? St. Joe and everyone else? Everyone see what Ehrman taught? He taught in his book, when I say taught, meaning wrote, that according to the Jewish followers of Jesus, who taught Paul this belief, less than 10 years, they wrote a poem. 40s CE, Christ era. A poem that Paul quoted, glorifying Jesus Christ the man as the incarnation of a divine being. Now, understand what this means. The poem was written in the 40s, but the belief must be older than the poem.
We talked about this too in part 1, I believe, where he showed this as well. He kind of went back. He's going to get to Galatians 4:14, but he talked about this earlier too. We talked about his Philippians stuff. It's going to come up more later though. But he said this exact same thing, and he's wrong. He keeps quoting this bolded part where it says the poem whose composition must be as early as the 40s. You notice how, I'll play it again. He keeps saying it was written in the 40s. It's not what it says, Sam, okay? As early as. That means it could be as late as, what? 80, right? Or 65, if you want to say before the temple. Some 66, before Nero and stuff like that. Sam, it's so weird that people think you're credible at all, right? It's a catastrophe. Let's hear it again.
Bart,
just so you know how gone he is, listen.
now understand.
Remember, he's going to lie and misrepresent Bart Ehrman here. He literally misquotes Bart Ehrman here, and he did it before, earlier in this video. He says this says it was written in the 40s. I think he said it's something even worse the other time in part 1. But he misquotes him again right here, and he's looking right at it.
And what this means. The poem was written in the 40s.
Right there. Right there. All Ehrman is doing is saying as early as the 40s. So saying a potential earliest date, right? There's like a whole date range that Sam is ignoring and doesn't even consider because he's only relevant because stupid people put him in a position he should not have been in, but they wanted someone to argue against people who don't agree with them so badly, they picked this guy, right?
But the belief must be older than the poem.
Oh, since we don't even know how old the poem is, and again, I agree with it 100%. It's just, it shows how bad his scholarship is, right? This guy literally doesn't even understand what he's looking at or reading right here. A simple date range with an earliest possible starting point, right? Gone.
Bart Ehrman just proved to you and helped you prove to anti-Trinitarians that the belief that Christ existed before he became man as a divine being, a divine person, a divine being who appeared in the Old Testament, and then he became the man Jesus, was already believed and taught in the 30s.
Okay, so you guys see how dangerous it is to listen to Sam? This guy is literally citing Bart Ehrman and saying he proved. That's what he said. You heard it. Bart Ehrman, he was like saying, and you can use this against all these anti-Trinitarian people. Bart Ehrman proves, which he didn't prove, right? There's no like proof here. Bart Ehrman's just saying, if we take, again, we're assuming Sam's quotes are correct. This is from an article he did, which is terrible. But he's not only not proving what Sam says he proved, so again, proof to Sam is mud, right? Dumb. Sam literally says, well, if Bart Ehrman says it's as early as the 40s, then it had to be written in the 30s, right? So, and I'll play it again, right? We're really dealing with someone who, in every conceivable manner, right? Interpreting the Bible, gone, right? Not qualified. We're going to go back. You just saw it. You saw what he did with Eck, right? You saw what he did with 1 Corinthians 10:4 and the rock and prior parts. Look, I don't know why this has ever been a problem for people. I think it's just, Sam's bullying and his involvement with Muslims and his longevity has made him well known. So everyone leeches onto him and trauma bonds with him in this religious fake sense, but that to them matters. And so he's not deserving of it, but because of his position, because he's been around and people know him, he gets attention he shouldn't have. Look, he literally lied to everybody. That Bart Ehrman's quote right here proves that Paul's letter to the Philippians was written in the 30s. I just, I only deal with him because of what I just said. I've known Sam a long time. I know how stupid he is, and I know how he misuses stuff like this and how people fall for it. And they'll listen to him and they'll see this kind of stuff and they'll be like, oh, Sam, Greg, look what Sam did, right? And I'm just like, this stuff is so low level and often just so wrong, and or he's so dumb he can't figure it out. Other than his ability to argue, he's basically worthless.
Because the poem is reflecting what they already believe. This is Bart Ehrman.
Yes, well, I agree with that, but it doesn't prove it was written in the 30s, that's for sure. And he says as early as the 40s, so that doesn't even mean it was written in the 40s like you lied about. So it's just going on the levels, and we have to tolerate it because so many people think you're more than you are. And so do you. And you're not.
God bless you, Daniel. You see what he's doing? He's slowly destroying himself, refuting himself. Thank you, my brothers. These guys that were attacking me for saying PayPal, who did GoFundMe's made.
It's right there. He just masturbated with his arm. I'm gonna watch that. But he totally lied, right? He just totally slandered Bart Ehrman after totally exposing how stupid he is. Listen.
Brothers, these guys that were attacking me for saying PayPal.
Sorry, I think I might have had you on mute there. My bad. Anyway, he's kind of doing that thing with his arm right there. You can see. And it's not normal. He's got one deformed arm because of the whacking off. And that might be why he's touching himself right there. Probably overused.
Who did GoFundMe's made over $250,000. Thank you, brothers, sisters, for your support. PayPal patron.
He's constantly begging for money because he won't get a job, and he only wants to take away people's hard-earned money while he continues to both make himself look stupid, lie about other people, and repeat the same things anyone could find out on their own without a screeching cow.
Because then I can get the books, read the books, use their arguments to prove the truth of our faith and destroy their lies and misinformation.
You mean have them pay you all that money so you can lie about Bart Ehrman, proving that Philippians was written in the 30s when all he said was it was as early as the 40s? And they do. This is how stupid people are. What he just said is true. They give him money to teach them what is wrong. Like the dumbest stuff you can imagine. We just saw it.
Pray PayPal picks up. Let them foam like dogs that God is still blessing me through the people of God to do this work.
God says that you're supposed to have a job like the apostles. Paul himself was a tent maker. Jesus was a carpenter. You're literally not following what you're told to do in the Bible. You refuse to get a job even though you're not disabled. You travel, you get up, you get around. You just won't do it. You refuse to do it. You keep using religion to make money, which is itself a grift. Anything you're supposed to do for free, but that you require money to do, is a grift. You're requiring people pay you for what they should get for free. Yeah, if you're writing a book or you're doing something that has actual cost and expense, that is different. But what you're doing, Sam, is just so low level and worthless. The idea that it substitutes for a job is something only complete idiots would believe.
Because I won't charge you for it. It's yours. And trust the Lord to provide through his people. I don't know what this cat wants. Okay, let's continue now. Ehrman, who did Paul believe Jesus is? Here you go from his writings. Ehrman, yep, Saint PayPal, my Patreon saint, Saint PayPal. All right, Ehrman, who did Paul think Jesus was? The angel of the Lord of the Old Testament. Here it is. He thinks that Galatians 4:4 suggests that Paul believed Jesus is the human enfleshment, the human incarnation of the angel of the Lord of the Old Testament. What are you doing, Ehrman? Why are you helping me to destroy you and anti-Trinitarians in Islam? Page 253 of his book, How Jesus Became God. But this means that in Galatians...
I'm just going to remove myself so you can read everything that's on the screen that he's reading with him.
4:14, Paul is not contrasting Christ with an angel. He's equating it with an angel. What angel, though? Garrett goes a step further. He's quoting other scholars in the field. The Galatians 4:14 indicates that Paul identifies Jesus Christ with God's chief angel. Who is that? You get ready for the shocker. If this is the case, then virtually everything Paul says about Christ throughout his letters makes perfect sense. As the angel of the Lord, Christ is a pre-existent being who is divine. He can be called God, and he's God's manifestation on earth in human flesh, because he's that angel of the Lord of the Old Testament. Paul says all these things about Christ, and in no passage more strikingly than in Philippians 2:6-11, a passage, right? A passage that scholars often call the Philippians hymn or the Christ hymn of Philippians, since it's widely thought to embody an early hymn or poem devoted to celebrating Christ in his incarnation. Now, he says this is not just the belief of Paul, but it was the belief of other Jewish followers of Jesus even before Paul showed up. So right here, I'm going to read it. Pages 250 to 251. A lot of reading, guys. In the most thorough investigation of Christological views that portray Jesus as an angel or an angel-like being, New Testament scholar Charles Gatian, and I have his book, by the way, helpfully defines the Jewish notion, right, of an angel as a spirit or heavenly being who mediates between the human and divine realms. Once Jesus...
You see how he ran by that, right? I hope you're like catching. I'm like giving him time to present this so people, don't complain. Like you have to stop Sam a lot because he's insane, but I try to give him periods where he can just develop his point, Giving up rope, he'll hang himself 100 times. Anyway, he's literally like citing scholarly sources that explain things in ways he doesn't agree with. How Jews during this time believed angels as spirit beings who mediated between human and divine realms, just like Jesus, which he doesn't believe. He believes he's part of a Trinity or one spirit that's got three persons. It's so stupid the way they believe, right? Because it's not biblical or even rational. It's only not rational in the sense that Jesus being begotten by God isn't therefore separate, because otherwise you'd be affecting the very nature that is shared by all three persons, if the very nature that Jesus shares with the Father is what's begotten, right? Or given life, right? You can't do any of those things with the same nature without doing it to the Father, because it's the same nature. Game over, no Trinity.
Jesus was thought to be exalted to heaven. He was quickly seen by some of his fellow followers, his own followers, those who knew him, to be this kind of heavenly mediator, one who obediently did God's will while he was here on earth. From there, it was a very small step to thinking that Jesus was this kind of being by nature. So he wasn't a human being from the start. He was this divine being by nature who became a human being. Not simply because of his
It actually, he didn't say that, at least not for sure in what you're reading right there, right? From there. It's talking about him on earth. While he was on earth. From there, Sam. It was a very small step to thinking that Jesus was this kind of being by nature. So it appears he's completely misquoting Bart Ehrman right here and applying this by nature part to before he was on earth, when this connects it from what he's showing to from the time he was on earth. So again, you got to be really careful with this guy. I mean, I would never, if you're that stupid that you're relying on this guy's quotations. Again, how dumb are these different religions to think he's got like some special memory? The only thing he has is memories of getting blown out by Watchtower people and me that he can never forget, so he keeps telling you guys all about it. That's the memory he's got, right? Total disaster.
exaltation. Jesus was not only the Son of God, the Lord, the Son of Man, the coming Messiah. He was the one who mediates God's will on earth as a heavenly angelic being. What kind of angelic being? Don't go Greg Stafford on me. Hold on.
Oh, you mean like the Greg Stafford that would be in agreement with what you just read? That says the Jewish view of the time was that angels were spirit beings who mediated between humans? Yeah, so you mean the Greg Stafford view or the scholarly view that was quoted in the source you just cited from Ehrman? Right? Guy destroys himself all the time. You just have to listen.
In fact, it came to be thought that he'd always been this kind of being. See? Always been that kind of being.
Oh, okay, right there. You see, now he highlights a part where it is talking about him before the time from when he was on earth. So he went from misquoting it to now finally quoting a part that says what he wanted that by nature in italics to mean earlier, that he misquoted. Again, you are stupid if you rely on Sam.
What being? If Jesus was the one who represented God in human form, he quite likely had always been that one. He was, in other words, the chief angel of God, known in the Bible as the angel of the Lord.
Right, which is like every other angel, a created angel, and there's more than one of them, both in the Old Testament, Zechariah, and in the New Testament, Book of Acts. So again, by angel of the Lord, Sam, he means chief angel of God. That's Michael, the one who was given the nation of Israel in Deuteronomy 32 or around that time. Even maybe Exodus 23. That's not like all again inclusive time-wise. He's divided them up at some point to the sons of God, with Michael getting the people of Israel. That's the chief angel That's the angel that's with them in that very account. Again, you're dealing with a deficient person who follows paganism and lies. So he's not going to be able to make the connection with Jude, referring to Michael arguing with Satan over Moses' body, in the very account we've all been talking about of Deuteronomy 32, after Moses dies. That's the angel of the Lord. It's the same angel there the whole time that was appointed to lead him, Sam. There's no other angel spoken of other than the angels that we know were there and that speak in books like Zechariah to another angel of the Lord that's there. But outside of that, which Gabriel says the only one other than him is Michael, right? There is no other angel of the Lord. That's just you lying again. There is no uncreated angel. Angels and humans speak for and as God all the time without being God. Isaiah does it more than the angels. I have a whole video and an article on my blog going through every single narrative change and speaker change in Isaiah. You haven't done one single thing likewise. Yet you keep lying to people and pretending like an angel saying, I am God, or I am Jehovah, or anything like speaking for God, but not being God. Every single thing that Isaiah does, and more than any angel, you keep lying to people and saying proves that they're God or uncreated, which proves neither one of those. It's just you lying again because of how stupid you are. It's Michael, idiot. Jude says he's right there arguing with Satan over Moses' body, the very people, the person that's part of the nation, the leader that he's been given authority over. Well, why isn't the angel of the Lord doing that if he's the one who's been given those people? Right, because he's Michael. Like any idiot who's not a total moron following later creeds by a pagan emperor and a bunch of dorks could figure out.
Damn, Gina.
This guy thinks he killed it. He literally stops to give himself credit and lick his nuts just because in the quote right here, it says he's the chief angel and the angel of the Lord. This guy's so stupid. He thinks anytime anyone identifies Jesus as the angel of the Lord, which Watchtower does, which I do, right? Means he's God. Like we're admitting he's God. He's that stupid, okay? He literally has been shown time and time again. Angels are all created. Psalm 104, Hebrews 1, and Ephesians, Paul says, any other creation after naming angels, proving they're created. That's what the grammar of that text means. I have a whole video on it in relation to the powers, but it also includes the angels, which the orthopagans even identify as powers, all of whom are created. Okay, Sam's an idiot. There's no such thing as an uncreated angel. God never delivers a message for someone else to someone else. That's an angel. He just gets caught up because of how low level and naive he is, thinking that because an angel speaks for and as God, just like Isaiah, but not as often as Isaiah does it, with no change evident in speaker, he just does it out of nowhere. Yeah, angels do that too, because they're also messengers from God like Isaiah. And Sam can't figure it out. So only for that reason, there is no other reason the angel of Yahweh, the angel of the Lord, literally prays to God in Zechariah 1 to get information he doesn't have. Then it says new words were given, good new words were given to that angel that in response to the prayer to God that the angel then gives to Zechariah. This guy's so stupid and the other idiots on his channel are so lame. The only thing they can do is come up with accounts where people ask rhetorical questions that they already know the answer to. 100% unlike the account I just described for you from Zechariah. And then they run around and act like they kill it while they masturbate, right? These are the dumbest people on the planet, which is why they can't get a job.
Here's how I respond to it.
This is him now insulting a commenter right after he thinks he killed it because a quote there from someone who doesn't believe what he believes says Jesus is the angel of the Lord, which is true, proving he's wrong, but he lies about the angel, saying it's something it's not, so he thinks he killed it. Right? No evidence. But he's literally, you saw that comment that come up. He gets distracted all the time. That's why I said I think he writes to people, bullies them, and he's never focused, even during prayers, which aren't real prayers.
I tell you, you're stupid and get out of here.
Right. So clearly, we have someone who's not qualified for anything like what he does. I'm not talking about just saying someone's stupid, but he can't even stay on point, right? It's really wild. So we have commenters, of course, in the chat who can't comprehend anything. Demetrios Sileri. I can't see all the words. Sometimes it's a little small print for me on the screen. I try to make it bigger, and it's okay, I think. It looks like that's what it is. Why are you parading the godless prick Bart Ehrman? Because, well, for the same reason at times I agree with Muslims. Because we agree on some things and don't agree on other things. That's also true with some Trinitarians. But with people like Sam, who uses people like Bart Ehrman to attack people like me, and in the process show how stupid he is. Like, we've literally been showing you guys some of the most unbelievable dumb stuff from this guy, right? So it's a gold mine. Demetrio Saleri. He's a gold mine. Do you guys understand how much material this guy gives us on a daily basis? I hear it all, almost all of it. And I just am loaded, right? I could get on almost all day, every day, and just annihilate him word for word, But it's all often a waste of time, and he's just such a turd, Again, he barely cracked 200 today. I think he's on his way out. Even though the ortho-pagans are so stupid and desperate, they're going to try to do something. I think he's going to crash out on them. And then what? Maybe go back to the Protestants, right? Who knows, right? Those guys are so trauma bonded with him. Maybe it would work, right? All right, Trinity 1096. So the one Michael the fire. Yeah. It looks like Bigley is gone on fire. Betsy's on fire. Everyone's having a good time. Sam's getting annihilated. Dude, he's done so much bad stuff. Let's keep going. You can hear him going insane, right? Literally, we're listening to this guy, and he's what? Said what? Can you think of one thing he said that you're going to remember so far in what we play to him that killed it, right? What? That Jesus is the angel of the Lord, like we already know, and all angels are created. He's the angel of Yahweh, right? He's so stupid. So just remember, these guys are gone. They don't understand the concept of angel. They make up new concepts, uncreated angels who are part of a Trinity, but who don't know all things and have to get information they didn't have and then give it to other people. Kind of like Jesus in Revelation 1:1, even though he's supposedly God Almighty right there too. So these guys are not smart. They're just really loyal to their traditions and paganism. Like the people in the New Testament who were rejected, right? Sam's a functional reject. So he fits that really well.
This is the figure who appeared to Hagar, Abraham, Moses, who sometimes actually called God in the Hebrew Bible. If Jesus is in fact this one, he's a pre-existent divine being who came to earth for a longer period of time during his life, who fully represented God on earth. He in fact can be called God.
Exactly like I've been telling this guy, right? And like we've been telling this guy Bart Ehrman is talking about when he says Jesus is equal with God. See, in earlier parts of this series where we were playing Sam, like trying to show a contradiction with Bart Ehrman and his writings, where he totally failed and blew it to even understand potential concepts available at that time that Bart Ehrman could be, in some sense, utilizing to make his comments about the distinction between being equal with Yahweh and equal with God. And while at the same time, even earlier, but right here, he's reading stuff that shows what Bart Ehrman is talking about, right? It's so stupid. All he's looking for is stuff that he can twist into what he wants it to mean. So like that angel of the Lord reference earlier, he thinks that Bart Ehrman saying that Jesus could be that angel is like him admitting the Trinity, right? Oh, yes, he does. He ran by this other stuff because it uses words like, if you look at the top, like represented or called God. He didn't spend a lot of time there because he wants to get to the other stuff that's a little more twistable, right? Like, watch this. He's so stupid.
Damn, Gina.
See? He thinks he killed it again. Can you even remember at all anything he just said that would put him justifiably in this state of delirium, right? Like he's prepared to masturbate or something?
Exaltation Christologies became transformed into incarnation Christologies as soon as believers in Jesus came to see him as an angelic being who performed God's work here on earth. To call Jesus
angelic being, Sam, right? Everything this guy's reading so far is just blowing him out, and yet he's just dying to get to something, right, that he can use to springboard into his misinterpretation not only of Bart Ehrman, but of the Bible. It's such a catastrophe.
us, the angel of the Lord is to...
He's at the top right there, right? So look at what he's reading. To call Jesus the angel of the Lord is to make a startlingly exalted claim about him. In the Hebrew Bible, this figure appears to God's people as God's, what, Sam? Representative, which he didn't bold because he couldn't twist it as easily because he's a pervert.
To make a startling, exalted claim about him.
He's at the top, by the way. Second sentence.
In the Hebrew Bible, this figure appears to God's people as God's representative, and he is in fact called God. What he's not telling you is he's called Yahweh.
Okay, so right here, Sam is now doing the exact same thing that he did kind of in part one. He's trying to create a contradiction between Bart Ehrman in some way where, oh, he can be called God. Oh, he can be equal with God. Well, then why do you say he's not equal with Yahweh? That's what he started this whole thing out with, right? This whole video series on Bart Ehrman is just based on his misreading. That's why I called it this. He misinterprets and then misrepresents him. Just like he does with the Bible, just like he does with pretty much everything, right? I can't speak for all of his Muslim stuff, but he gets a lot of that wrong too, right? He sees the Trinity and all kinds of stuff. It's just, so Sam is not reliable on any level. He's not qualified, as we've shown, and he's reckless and dangerous. He's dangerously stupid and incapable of qualified thought based on evidence.
Later on, watch what he says about the angel. And as it turns out, as recent research has shown, there are clear indications in the New Testament that the early followers, did you hear that, Muslims? The disciples of Jesus who were Jews understood him in this fashion. The ones you say were Muslims. You guys caught over there on Rumble?
So right here it says that it would be referring to him as the angel of the Lord and him as God's representative. So it would probably be a problem for Muslims in the sense of early understanding of Christians for him to be like this. It's not a problem for us, though, of course. None of this is proof, though, right? He's just, I mean, some of the texts that we've been talking about, I would say is proof, but nothing here. He's literally just using comments, like conclusions or things that Ehrman says are potentially the case based on research, right? He's like taking it as absolute fact, right? The way this guy is, he's so stupid. It's just so bad.
Jesus was thought of as an angel or an angel-like being or even an angel of the Lord, and any
angel-like being, right? He gives like multiple, right there. Look, after the end of the bold word fashion, He's quoting right there, Jesus was thought of as an angel. Of course, he doesn't bold that. Or an angel-like being. He doesn't bold that. Or even the angel of the Lord. He probably felt odd just bolding that. A superhuman divine being, right? This is all consistent with what we say, by the way, right? And against what he believes. The only thing he thinks he can use here are his misinterpretations of the angel of the Lord and calling Jesus God. Right, guys? Crazy.
And a superhuman divine being who existed before his birth and became human for the salvation of the human race. This, in a nutshell, is the incarnation Christology of several New Testament authors. Later authors went even further and maintained that Jesus was not merely an angel, even the chief angel, but it was a superior being. He was God himself come to the earth. Now,
Oh,
notice how confused.
I'm sorry. I had you guys muted there for a second. My bad. Okay, so I blew that, but let me try it again. Look at what he said. Look at the top. It says, Lord, in any event, a superhuman divine being who existed before his birth. Sam does not believe that, and became human for the salvation of the human race. Thus, this in a nutshell is the incarnation Christology of several New Testament authors. That's our belief, Sam. He's talking about our belief being the Christology of several New Testament authors, not yours, right? That's why he goes on to say, later authors, after the New Testament authors, Sam, in the middle sentence, later authors went even further and maintained that Jesus was not merely an angel, even the chief angel, i.e. the angel of the Lord, but was a superior being, God himself come to the earth. That's the later authors, Sam. Let's hear how this guy butchers it, and we'll wrap this up for tonight. Come back tomorrow and try to finish him off.
This guy is. Notice how even the chief angel, but it was a superior being. He was God himself come to the earth. Now notice how confused this guy is. Notice how he contradicts himself.
Listen carefully.
Okay, this cat wants to go out. Hold on.
Cat's cat. That's the cat that is the inspiration for the cat you see on all the thumbnails. Sam's cat that is actually sent by God to disrupt him and probably to crap on his face, right? Or do whatever it can to disturb him, right? Stop the blasphemy. So he regularly demonizes and condemns the cat. Pervert.
See that? If he's saying, John, who's the later writer, is saying he's God himself, listen to how he's going to contradict himself. Okay? God himself. That's what he just said. I thought The God of the Old Testament is Yahweh. So guys, let's follow his logic. If he is God himself, and to be God himself means you're Yahweh, what does Ehrman do?
Okay, right there, he just lied. He just repeated the same lie from part 1, where he says being God is the same as being Yahweh, which is not true, even in contemporary Jewish Middle Platonic view, like I stated in my response to his part 1, that shows he has no concept of what he's even talking about. This guy miscites Philo all the time, and here he ignores him when he's trying to deal with Bart Ehrman, who is likely dealing with that kind of split understanding on some level between Yahweh and God, which is actually quite common, even if it's not exactly like Philo's. But it's contemporary enough to where his misunderstanding is inexcusable.
Smoking mushrooms? 1 second. See the contradiction?
He keeps talking to himself when he hasn't shown anything. Again, literally, it says right here, he's trying to use this God. It says later author, Sam. You've misquoted this. You've quoted this, Sam, as if he said the Bible, or the New Testament at least, teaches Jesus was God come to the earth. It literally says that in contrast with what he calls the New Testament Christology of several authors, that is essentially exactly what we believe and not what you believe. And then the later writer, Sam, how could you not see this, dude? And where are you, by the way?
Yeah, no trick. See why I say this guy makes no sense?
No, we're waiting for you to come here and explain yourself. Get out of the bathroom, dude. You got to be able to resist yourself. Come on, man. There's a time and a place.
So I say makes no sense? How can he be God himself without being Yahweh?
Yeah, we've talked about this since part 1, dude. It shows how stupid you are. He's once again confirming he's not qualified to discuss New Testament theology or Christology. Okay, he's just not prepared for it. He's making some of the worst conflations of all time, and I'm not just talking about Eck, right? This guy's literally out of his league on all levels. He's attacking Bart Ehrman, who's way beyond him, even on theology, proven right here, because he keeps saying something that is disprovable by contemporary views, i.e. Philo and others like him. And he doesn't even understand what Bart Ehrman is talking about, which is right in front of his face.
I don't get it.
That is very clear to everybody. What we're looking for, though, is why you're so stupid. Do you have an answer for that? Is it you and the dent in your head, or the abandonment issues? It's got to be something, Sam.
But it gets worse for our friend.
Worse, like in it's ever going to start being bad? What are you talking about?
He said he's the angel of the Lord, right?
Right, which means he's created and not Yahweh in the full sense, but only representatively, and does know all things, just like the angel of the Lord.
According to Ehrman, who's the angel of the Lord? In his book, he explains the event when the angel appeared to Hagar. Mel Gibson, Cathal Ryan, King Deplorables, Exeter Kirkby. All right, Kazmik, Antcon. I'm watching you guys. He now quotes the event.
See, I told you he's constantly distracted by things going on outside of what he's supposed to be talking about. Gone.
Where the angel appears to Hagar. Look what he says. Genesis 16, 7 and 14. But then after referring to this heavenly visit as angel Lord, the text indicates that it was in fact the Lord. You see what he just said? It was Yahweh.
Right. We see this all throughout the book of Isaiah. Would you like to go through my blog article or my video so you can learn how Isaiah does this more than anyone? He says Yahweh is speaking. He says he is Yahweh. He literally says I, me, all of it, Sam. Out of nowhere. Like interspersed with going back and forth without any indication whatsoever. Huh. And the fact that the angel does that, angels, by the way, do that, somehow makes you and people like Bart Ehrman get flustered. You, it totally wrecks. People like him, because he doesn't really care about theology, proven by you yourself, right? In the ultimate sense, right? It's not supposed to be someone you use like this, Sam. It shows how lame you are. But in any case, nothing of what you believe about the angel of the Lord is true. Some things he thinks may be true about the angel of the Lord may not be true, but a lot of what he says is true. And he's not even being committal here like he hasn't been in many ways where you pretended he is and lied about him.
But spoken with her. Moreover, Hagar realizes that she has been addressing God himself and expresses her astonishment that she had seen God and remained alive after seeing him. Here there is both ambiguity and confusion.
Okay, so he's very clearly not taking a position here in a way you can use. He's very much aware of things like you guys accused him of not knowing, that people do identify this angel in some way as more than what it appears to be. But, so I don't know how you could criticize him in some way by alleging he didn't know that Trinitarians believe Jesus was Yahweh, when he right here, according to your quotation of him, right, is saying that one potential view is that he's the angel of the Lord, namely the Lord himself in human guise. Again, assuming you're quoting him correctly, you're contradicting your own abuse of him in part 1. This very video, right?
Either the Lord, Yahweh meaning by Lord Yahweh, appears an angel in the human form of human, or the angel of the Lord is the Lord himself, God in human guise. Now, I don't know if this guy is the very thing he accuses the Bible writers of, confused and confusing and full of contradictions. If Jesus is that angel, and you're telling me the angel's either Yahweh appearing as his own messenger in human form, or that this is a messenger who is Yahweh, God in human disguise, distinct from the God who sent him, then you just said Jesus is Yahweh.
No, he in fact doesn't say that at all. I'll remove myself so you can all see exactly where Sam is misquoting Bart Ehrman again. He literally doesn't even draw a conclusion. He explicitly states there's ambiguity and confusion, right? Then he says an either or. Either the Lord appears as an angel. An angel, Sam, that again is similar to Philo's view in some way, where angels can appear as a vision to the person, appear as God in a vision to the person, but not really as God. Or even as an angel in some sense. It's more just made to appear that way to the person. So he literally uses the word appears right there. Look, either the Lord appears as an angel. That's very much like what Philo writes about, in the form of a human, or the angel of the Lord is the Lord himself, God in human guise. So he's there clearly showing he's aware of Trinitarian ideas about this issue. But Sam, he's saying either appears as an angel or the angel, capital A, of the Lord. So he couldn't be making a more clear distinction there between an angel who's not the angel of the Lord, right? And the angel of the Lord, whom some people believe is the Lord himself in human guise, but who is really just an angel, the chief angel, like Bart Ehrman elsewhere spoke about and wrote about. And here he just says either it's this or that, Sam. Either he's a created angel, chief angel, or he's this angel of the Lord, who he doesn't say is uncreated like you do. So it's not even fully usable like you do. And you don't even understand what he's talking about. He's not even saying he is what you say. Yet you said, right?
That this is a mess.
Listen to how he framed what you're looking at. Look at the bold part, and we're going to end with this. You see the bold part, either the Lord himself appears as an angel in the form of a human, etc., or the angel of the Lord. Look at that and listen to Sam for a second.
Messenger who is Yahweh, in human form. If Jesus is that angel, and you're telling me the angel's either Yahweh appearing as his own messenger in human form, or that this is a messenger who is Yahweh, God in human disguise.
Right? So he literally just showed he read it, right? Listen how he concludes what he just summarized.
Distinct from the God who sent him, then you just said Jesus is Yahweh.
Right? Do you guys see what we're dealing with? So there's not a rational bone in his body, you understand? We're not going to be able to reach Sam or convince him. It's just not possible. He's too far gone. He's demonic. He's a blasphemer. He's a pig. He's a bad dad, a bad teacher, doesn't work, opposes the government. He's really a menace to society and an anti-Christian. He creates divisions everywhere he goes, lies about people all the time, from Bart Ehrman to me to anybody else. Okay? He's just an all-around rotten individual. He abuses his kids, and he doxes people and attacks their families when he's the biggest bitch and pig in town. I will be back tomorrow. Let's just cut it there, because he's going to go into Genesis 18 and other texts, which we're going to go into. I've already done it, right? There's nothing new here. It's just warmed over garbage. No meat on the bones from Sam again. Let me just say hi to everyone one last time. Flame out any perverts. And we'll call it a night. Over. Okay, everybody. So once again, good to have you all. If I missed you earlier, Sam is the goat. Yeah, he's a goat who gets sodomized, right? Guy's literally been blown out by so many people. He couldn't even handle 10 minutes with me protesting Protestantism. Yeah, and that's your hero, right? Good luck to you. Guy's one of the stupidest people of all time. One of the biggest blimps and charlatans ever. He's a fraud. He's literally fooled you guys and showed how stupid every single one of the major Christian religions really are. And I mean Trinitarian, of course. Because if you were dumb enough to ever fall for Sam Shamoun, there's no way you could have had the Holy Spirit with you ever. Or at least while you were with him. Because it wouldn't be able to take the presence of such a pagan blimp, right? His dad literally took one look at him as a little cow and said, I'm out, right? Game over. So if you can't see after all the betrayal, all the lies, and even recent stuff, right? His doctrine is horrific. His argumentation is a joke. He's a clown ass. Okay, he literally killed himself live after insulting me 5 times, calling me a joke. This guy can't interpret anything. Okay, I know all 3 biblical languages, and I'm working on Aramaic, right? So this guy's a bitch, a pig, and a cow, and he always has been. He's a liar, and I don't know how he fooled so many people to use him when he didn't deserve it, and to still give him a pass when he deserves to be exposed and humiliated for the blasphemous pig he is. He insulted my mother, he insulted your mother, and his mother hates him. Except maybe the whore of Babylon who got raped and gave birth to him. That's the only one who may have some space left for him. But when that whore of Babylon goes down, he'll be all on his own, trapped like a little baby, for the strong angel to come down and chain him up. Then, finally, can you imagine what a break we'll have from this pig? Could you imagine a whole world without Sam Shamoun, let alone just him off YouTube, right? Think of all the screeching cow sound that would be gone. All the blasphemy and Baal worship, right? All the abuse of kids and promoting fatzos who don't work and who attack everybody and their mothers because you were abandoned like a little cow with a dent in your head you've never been able to fix. fat as a blimp, hairless as a pig, and dickless as a woman. Nice job, Sam. We all enjoy laughing at you. We really do. So I'll see you tomorrow so we can continue to expose this demonic coward, this horrific pig and blasphemer until he's finished once and for all. And we can finally try to get along, even with all of our differences and imperfections, without this level of horrificness. So I thank you all for joining me. I will be back tomorrow. We got so much more, probably all week too. If I take a break off, I'll let you know or upload a video. We'll just keep going, keep meeting together, keep partaking regularly with at least one other person. Don't worry about these bitches and fags out here lying on YouTube and elsewhere. We'll take care of them. You support us. You know this is not easy work. I don't really enjoy it in the fullest sense, but you know I have to do it. You know who I'm dealing with. And you know there's only a few people who can take out this kind of bitch. So, you support me. I support you. We all get along. We don't do anything illegal. We don't practice immorality. We take out pigs, fatsos, and blimps if we're able to. Otherwise, we give praise to God the Father through Jesus as we treat each other the way we want to be treated. And that includes exposing blimps, pigs, and fatsos if that's what we were, right? Why wouldn't we want that? Well, because we want to keep lying. That's not a reason not to treat them like they're pigs, blimps, and fatsos. Read the New Testament. It will explain it all to you. Start with Jude, because he was dealing with these kinds of people too. I'll be back tomorrow, everyone. Praise John in Jesus' name. Until then.